Oz, you're hot in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sorry. All right. It's Friday. Welcome back to the Combo.
I hate that.
Pastor Jardula is here. B.
I hate that you say, all right. Like, it's just not you.
Ma'am, it is casual Friday. I got my Boogaloo shirt on over here. I got Tommy Bahamas. Well, that's what they're going to accuse me of, right? So I might as well just go with it. So, fam, casual Friday. Let's do it.
Fam. Breaking news, everybody. This just came off the press. Moscow pizza is better than Chicago pizza.
That is just ridiculous. Stop that.
It's not ridiculous. It's not. It's true.
You're not helping with our debate when it comes to New York versus Chicago.
It's not a debate. It's a war. You're going to
sit there and say
Italy has better pizza than New York. Pasta's betraying his Italian roots by saying no without ever having been to Italy. So when he goes to Italy, he's going to literally swallow his words when he understands the pizza there is 10,000 times better than any pizza in the United States. Why? The bread. I'll tell you why. The bread here, okay, Russians, they know about bread. Like, I'm telling you, wheat is a big thing here. It's just way better. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry, guys.
Well, maybe it's just because the water's better, because the water is very important when it comes to making good pizza. In fact, that's why I think Brooklyn pizza is so good, because the water comes from the Catskill Mountains, which is some of the best.
That's what they tell you. It comes from the sewers where the rats are.
That's not true. In Brooklyn, it's like you can drink cold ass water out of the tap. It's coming from the Catskill Mountains. That's what it comes from.
Back in your day.
Well, maybe it's changed now. Maybe they're feeding the hipsters something different. Guys, do us the favor. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It's a sad day for Media Fam altogether. Bryan Stelter. Oh my God. All right, everybody out there, we're going to have a moment of 10 seconds of silence for Bryan. Ready? Go. Spam.
Sorry.
Come on, it's just for Bryan.
It's not like he died.
Fam. A level of asinineness is dead.
Asinineness. Pasta just makes up his own words. I love it.
That's the Brooklyn way. Guys, do us a favor. Hit the like button, hit the share button. Let's get it out there. They're suppressing us mad crazy over there. Hopefully, you can Fiat on Rumble, on RT. You can check it out on Odyssey, and maybe the morning show at AM Wake Up on Rokfin and Twitter. We are here to rock it. Fam,
what did you guys think of the panel, the China panel? Guys, what did you guys think of that? I think I need to do a stream where I basically talk about my perspective, because I didn't really talk about my perspective, because a good host doesn't do that. Good host just lets everybody else talk, right?
Well, you're also
I didn't really
full of foo-foo right now, because it's also our perspective is kind of still forming, right? I mean, it's still there. We have new information coming to light.
Well,
new people. I mean, we didn't know Matt Ehret was around for a while. Now that he's on the spot, we kind of understood what Danny Haifong was at. We understand what T-Lab's at. That's part of our kind of like our fam, like of sorts. That's, we're a Rokfiners of sorts, and we've been watching his show. I think we used to watch his show back in the days because of the information he would put out on Israel was amazing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
I thought, well, speaking for me, I thought that I was the only one who had a very kind of like, I see the good in China, but I also see the concerns. So I thought I was the only one, but that's why I resonate a lot with Matt's perspective, because I feel like it's kind of a little bit of this and that. Although I could say that all three of them, I agree with different things they all said. So that's where my perspective is. I agree with all three of them on different things. I disagree, of course, on, with Danny on the COVID, obviously. And with Ryan, I tend to have a more optimistic, and I told Steve this, because I feel like Steve and Ryan have a very similar perspective. And I don't know. I just think I think that there is actual opposition that's not all going to take us in this direction. I'm also wary about just being the technology is going to happen. Like, the technology is going to continue to develop regardless of what we do. And for me, it's more about who has control of that technology. And I don't think we're going to, unless we go back and blow everything up and go back to times where we all literally live on farms and we do everything like a lot of anarchists want to do, which is grow our own food and do all this, which is fine. Like, if that's what you want to do. But I think a lot of people want and are used to technology, and we're not going to be able to stop that technology. So there's different layers to that argument of, you know, the surveillance state and the Great Reset and all of that, because some people are very anti-technology, and I'm not necessarily anti-technology. I mean, I don't love it, but I'm also aware that I think it's going to happen whether we like it or not.
Well, yeah, but there needs to be a mindfulness to a return to simplicity before, you know, when it comes to our food, when it comes to our living, when it comes to growing our own food, because, you know, everything now is just so modified, right? You know what I'm saying? Everything.
Well, yeah,
so
modified,
engineered and processed and all this other stuff. So when we talk about, like, you know, those people going back to like the farmland, I don't think they're necessarily moving away from technology. I'm pretty sure they'll still have a computer, a router, literature, all take advantage of a lot of the things technology has to offer. But it is just a return to simplicity when it comes to our food, when it comes to our living, when it comes to
is
our
that
energy.
Sustainable? Is that sustainable? That is the question. Is it sustainable to go back to individual farming? Perhaps, if we figure out a way how to organize it, but you're going to have to organize it with a lot of people. It's not just going to be like, I don't think it's feasible to say everybody's just going to have their own farm and then the world will just function that way. I just don't think that's.
I don't think it's going to be that, but I'm just saying we have to, when it comes to producing our food, we have to get more local. We have to get more in sync with it and stuff. I mean, the other alternative is just allowing and stepping away and letting these monsters mop up all the property, all the food line chains and everything. You'll eat bugs, you'll own nothing and like it. And that's what they are doing, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there has to be a good balance. It's like when we had on Texas Slim this morning. You know, I'm a vegan. He's freaking Texas Slim. He's a cattle rancher and talking about going back to the naturalness of how they feed the food, how they process the food, you know, all that stuff, and getting away from all these crazy corporate entities that are just swallowing everything up. You know, so I'm always looking for balance. I'm not one of those kind of Nazi vegans, because I understand, you know, there has to be a nice balance in everything. So I think it's just about finding our balance as a human. And that means getting away from everything that is modified, is processed, and all the transhumanist mentalities, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I mean, there's this kind of sense of like, oh, we got to get rid of blockchain because it's being used in the wrong way. No, it's just being used in the wrong way. We have to embrace blockchain, what it's good for, but not using it in a negative way. And I think that's what we have to do overall when it comes to our food, our living, our energy, the whole 9 yards, our mentality, the whole 9 yards, fans.
But that comes with a human evolution more than anything.
Like I said, evolution's okay, but it's what you use the technology for, you know? And we
I just mean some of those. People have to be understanding of their significance and their place in the world. And that requires, you know, there's a lot of, like, for instance, I think I saw Samira Khan say, fuck the environment, right? And she was having an argument with somebody else that was like, if you're against multipolarity, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. Because there's this fight, you know, between, there's a lot of different views as to if environmentalism matters a lot on the left. And I disagree that it doesn't matter. I think it matters. I think
it does.
The environment absolutely matters, because I think as human beings, we need to be in balance. And maybe this is my personal view of what I see as humanity, right? But I think we need to go back to the way Native Americans treated the environment, the way Native Americans treated animals. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think we need to go back, but there's an exploitation of that, right? With the Great Reset, using environmentalism as this
yeah, that's thing. What I'm saying. Yeah, they're
so it's kind of like, it's difficult right now to navigate these waters.
That's why that panel was so important the other day, fam. And it's important for you to get your perspective out there and have different perspectives. And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be from these guys. Like, I mean, Matt, Eric, and T-Lab, all those three guys that were on the show, highly intelligent guys. They're really, really smart. But we got to get regular old folks thrown into the mix over here. And we have to empower them that they can understand that, listen, man, it's not that hard. It's like when I went to sub school, I was so like overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so hard. I'm not a mechanical guy. But like, I was one of the tops in my class because it was that once you just break it down and explain it easy. Hey guys, a submarine takes on buoyancy by adding or letting go of water. That's how it goes. Like, you know what I'm saying? We have to make it simple, stupid. We have to tell people to start being conscious of everything they put in their mouths, fam. That's something that's been taking over. Our food industry has been completely taking over. We're okay for processed food. To think that any of that food out there that we're feeding our kids, because you hear the Taco Bell go boom, to think that any of that is good, it's not good. And yet it's part of, once again, evolving to where they can make things modified in a lab and process it easy, cook it easily, and then produce food that fills you up. That is using technology in a wrong way. You know what I'm saying? We have to get back to some sort. And that comment by Samira right there has no balance. And that's a problem, fam, when it comes to that topic. And I've been talking about, this is a topic I'm very nervous about because it's getting feast or famine. It's either let's allow these Monsanto to come in, produce mass amount of crops with these terrible soils that rob our soil of its nutrients, but it produces out mass amounts of food, and that's okay. And we can't stop a country from doing that or saying that it's bad because we did it. So we have to allow them to industrialize and be able to feed their people. That's a bullshit fucking comment. That's a bullshit, non-balanced statement. We can say that, yes, we can allow these countries to reproduce their food. We can let them industrialize. And we can't do anything but show them the way ourselves by being the example. We can't tell them what to do. But to not point out the fact that the things that we are doing to this planet, like fracking is fucking awful. It fucks up our water and it creates earthquakes. And there's no getting around that. That is something that, hey, man, that's maybe something we shouldn't do. But how do we provide other forms of energy? I mean, and we've never had nuanced, balanced conversations about this. It's now just become, oh, you're an alarmist. You're an Al Gore craziness. You guys just want us to get off everything. You want to, and what are they doing? The other side. They're going, we're going green, fam. And all these ESGs are just to consolidate all the wealth into the big corporations. Let's get rid of the little farmer, right? It's really not about keeping, the place green or cleaning up our planet or making it healthier. It's just about consolidation and control at the end of the day. And that's why they're in the streets in the Netherlands. And that's why they're in the streets in Germany. And that's why they're in the streets in fucking Italy. And that's something, we're not talking about. It's just feast or famine, especially judging, by the way, a lot of these lefties are talking about the new Build Back Better, the Reduction in Inflation Act that they had to rename because they couldn't get it passed. The way they're talking about it, fam, as if it's good. There's no balance here. We need balance.
So, fam.
Yes.
Part of restoring the balance in the world is getting rid of morons. So.
See, I was at the point where I thought we went too far, that I was trying to stall it into maybe like we should just bring them in.
No.
All right, let's go. Go ahead. Because this is not a long section.
This is you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, fam, let's look at our bingo card. Take a look. CNN finally fired Bryan Stelter. When you say he finally fired them, that must be a shitty company. Fam, who do you got? Like, who's next to go there?
I don't know.
I think definitely. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say Dana Bash down below to the right to me is on the chopping block. Don Lemon should be gone a long way. So I think that's where I'm going to get my tic-tac-toe. I don't know if it's going to be diagonally or across the middle, but I can definitely say the top two on the right, Anderson Cooper and Wolfowitz, or Wolf Blitzer. I think they're protected. So that's that. Let's take a look. Bryan Stelter to depart CNN as they canceled, fam, Reliable Sources media show. So CNN is canceling its Sunday Media Affairs show, Reliable Sources. The host, Bryan Stelter, is departing the network, Stelter tells NPR. In a statement to NPR, Stelter said he's grateful for the show and his team's examination of the media, fam. Oh, my God. Truth and the stories that shape our world. It was a rare privilege to lead a weekly show focused on the press at the time when it has never been more consequential, Stelter said, promising to say more on Sunday's show, its final episode. Stelter, I can't see it. Stelter got his start blogging about cable news as a student and went on to become a media reporter for the New York Times. Reliable Sources is the longest running show on CNN. Can you believe that? That show was crap. The host was crap. Stelter has hosted it for the past 9 years and collaborated the show's 30th anniversary in March. CNN's chief, Chris Litch, informed Stelter of the decision yesterday. Litch has been making cuts throughout the network since taking the helm as part of Warner Brothers and Discovery's takeover of old Time Warner Company. The network pulled the plug on its standalone digital platform, CNN Plus, for which it had hired former NPR host Audie Cornish and former Fox host Chris Wallace before it had been launched. Excuse me. Blah 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 blah. And fam. So, any thoughts about Stelter? It being the longest running show, the fact that CNN Plus had no shelf life, and what do you think is next for Bryan Stelter? And why, more than anything, fam, is it important to point out these type of jerks that are hired in the mainstream media?
I mean, I didn't even know about this until you brought it up. I think it's funny. I also think it's just a signal to how bad corporate media is doing, because the only reason you don't notice how bad they're doing is because they have endless amounts of money and funding to make it look like they're doing fine. To keep a show like that running for that long, it just, that just shows that they have a lot of funding. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're popular. Less and less people are watching mainstream media anymore. More people are watching YouTube, which is why they're trying to take over YouTube, which is why they're trying to copy the things that people like us do, and which is why they're shutting down any oppositional media like RT and others that show a different narrative, because those networks are a lot better at showing very, very balanced news. In fact, the people at RT are always focused on showing both sides of things, even if, for instance, I have a stance on something, for instance, on the Israel-Palestine. To me, Palestine is an occupied territory. Israel does not have the right to exist. I can have all of these points of views, but when the news is presented, they have a Palestinian and they have an Israeli person. And that's in spite of my belief of what I feel about the issue. So if anything, CNN and all of these, MSNBC, they're running dry. They're not just appealing to anybody, because it's very obvious that they have a hard slant against, for the neoliberal status quo narrative. And nobody wants to hear that. We talked about this with Kim. It's not anymore just appealing to have the same status quo narrative, because everybody knows that narrative is just not true anymore. So it's just kind of like, it's not sustainable anymore. And I think what these people are going to do is try to appeal to the youth via social media, via like TikTok, which is what they're trying to do, via Instagram. And they're going to try to rebuild everything to appeal to the younger generations using what we do, but with their narrative. And we can't allow that to work. Our job has to be to continue pointing out that their narrative is false and it's full of propaganda for the establishment.
And you talked about the endless funding. Lucky was just saying in the chat, and a lot of people were agreeing over here, that they have big pharma funding, right? I mean, that's where they get a ton of this friggin' money from. It's just a ton of big pharma funding. Thank you, Jilly. She made it the military medical media cabal, is what Jilly said over here. And I'm going to try to engage more with the chats now, because I know you guys said to do that and you guys put some interesting stuff out there. But yeah, fam, it's also, the two sides of the story. When you say, what you're witnessing now, you get an Israeli person and a Palestinian person, and they can actually talk that out. You'll never see that on these shows. They stay within their own echo chamber. They just keep repeating their own propaganda, and then they try to pass it off as it's news by sounding sophisticated and whatnot. That's why they never, ever go toe-to-toe with a dissenting or an opposite voice. And what kind of person does that kind of attract? That's why you're going to get the persons like Stelters and stuff like that, because anybody of value or character is not going to play that ball. They're just going to eventually walk away. And there's been so many journalists and commentators that have walked away. Here's a nice little tweet we saw from the Hodge twins. I was looking for that one tweet. How the hell are you going to get fired on your day off? Both Liz Cheney and Bryan Stelter got fired in the same
That's
How
hilarious.
bad is Andrew Yang praising freaking goddamn Liz Cheney? Fam,
I don't know why people are surprised. I don't know why people gave him the time of day. From the moment that this motherfucker, we interviewed him at the California, what was it, the primary, or it was like the California, Democratic Party function thing that we did, where we got to interview Buttigieg and him. from the moment he gave me that bullshit answer.
Yeah.
I knew he was a bullshitter. I don't understand why people are like, oh my God, he has such great ideas. No, his idea, he's
full of shit.
Guy.
He's an Obama guy.
To co-opt this idea of being anti-establishment and not being part of the duopoly by rebranding the duopoly and giving you the same pile of shit with different, with glitter and added perfume all over it, so you think it's repackaged as something else, but it really is still shit. And there's nothing different about him. I was just so disappointed how so many people got duped by him.
I was saying we have a video with even when he has that stupid face trying to explain stuff. Like Fee's got him that way. He was like, I wanted to point out some of Bryan Stelter's just awful moments. And this is the one I found the worst, that just the way he kind of belittles and whatnot. See, once again, fam, and, Brianna Joy Gray was saying the other day when she was on Cenk, I wasted 20 minutes of my life. I'll never get it back because that's how awful Cenk is, right? And we've been really critical of Brianna Joy Gray, and rightfully so. And actually what she's pushing, we have every right to push back against it, especially when she's having guests like Matt Dust. But she's in a different league. At least what she was saying on the Hill is that she's trying to talk to the people who like these politicians, who follow these commentators, so that she can pitch her point to get it across. I think she has a losing battle, but that's it. So when you start saying that, Trump is the most racist president of all times and all that stuff, like Bernie Sanders said, you're essentially saying everybody who follows them is racist. This is just a moment when you have Jenna Ellis, who was, as we know, one of Trump's lawyers, and Bryan Stelter. And this is the only tactic they have to smear and try to make somebody look really bad for their thoughts and their beliefs. Take a look.
When the president's telling people to punish
bad service, that's entirely okay.
Okay, he actually called out MSNBC and NBC News, so he was linking it to his distaste for news coverage. Again, that is so far beyond the pale for American presidents. Right, but do you understand how aberrant that is in American history?
He has an opinion. He is also a citizen. No, he is the first one to actually use his platform as an American citizen to be able to call out the fake news media and say, because you are peddlers of false information. You understand that
someday you're going to regret this, right?
3.5 years.
Someday you're going to regret this when your kids and your grandkids look back at this time and you use slurs and smears like fake news to hurt news outlets.
No, but Bryan, is when you can't even come on.
I think in 10 or 20 years, if we just sit down and talk about this, you're going to recognize how damaging it was. How damaging it was to use terms like fake news, to attack journalists who were trying to do their jobs.
In 15 or 20 years, you're not trying to do your job. You're not a journalist, Bryan. You're an activist. That's the problem. You have an agenda, and your agenda is anti-Trump. The American people see through that, and they are very grateful that this president is finally holding the fake news media accountable, because you're activists. You're not reporting fact and truth. You won't even say that as a general
the reason why I think it's helpful to have these conversations
shouldn't ever appear in a media outlet.
Folks have gotten used to these alternative realities, and I think it's important we see there are alternative realities.
Fam.
It's just so hard. It's just so even harder to engage because they're just screaming at each other. That's exactly what I don't like. I might get, I don't know, some views. People might enjoy the back and forth, but you can have better back and forth with actual exchange of information rather than screaming at each other. But I mean, he used every tired old trick in the book, every single shame, you're a Trump supporter, blah, blah, blah. Give something more other than Trump is bad. Just that isn't working anymore. And I still see that. And I see that a lot on the so-called US left, right? There's this contingent of people who call themselves left. We call them synthetic left, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're really focused on this. And to the point of the whole Brianna Joy Gray situation with Cenk, I'm so tired of hearing about these little feuds. I'm literally covering news. We're talking about a possible nuclear explosion. We're talking about war, potential nuclear war with China and the United States. And the U.S. independent media left is still focused on Cenk Uygur. And I'm just I get it. If Cenk Uygur said something about you, you're going to respond. And I get it. I'm not saying people should never talk about it. I just think the focus on it is just tiring at this point, right? It's just like endless and endless and endless and endless. Where does that get you? These people do this for attention. They wouldn't have anything to talk about or anything to put out there without, trashing on Jimmy Dore and waiting on him to respond. And they wouldn't have anything if they didn't do that. And they manipulate this. And then everybody does like 20 videos about the same shit. And I'm just like, guys, like, you would be better served to talk about other shit that actually matters. And so I do want to talk about that with the Bank sisters a little bit about what they think. And also we're going to talk about their camp data as well.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about slides.
Yeah, we got a couple more slides to get into real quick and we'll be done. They're just little tweets real quick. I've been following the tweets of the Bank sisters, so they've been following up on this too as well, because there are some important points to point out, and we'll talk about this too as well. So fam, somebody, Allie Beth Stuckley put out, everyone's dunking on Bryan Stelter since his show got canceled, but I honestly feel really bad for his fan. Boom, boom, and then here comes Viva Fry. We found the viewer. I mean, if you don't realize by now that Hollywood is an arm of the CIA, is an arm of the government, is an arm of the intelligence community, literally, if they do anything military-wise, the CIA has got to okay their script. The State Department sends them script. It was Stephen King here. The one show on CNN I never missed was Reliable Sources with Bryan Stelter. It has been an invaluable window into the media, into how the media covers itself. Today, CNN canceled it. It was one of the worst shows of all times. It had one of the worst announcers. And here it is. Bryan Stelter is looking for a new job. Remember, to us, he'll always, Oz, the next one. Bryan Stelter is looking for a new job. He will always be the George Costanza of CNN. There he is. One of my favorite tweets of the day. So let's just get to it, fam. Do you have anything else to say about Bryan Stelter?
No.
All right. Well, let's get to it. Our guests are in the door. I'm saying this is going to be interesting. This is going to be fun because it's truly like a conversation. I've had several conversations with the Bank sisters. They are both here, Keisha and Court. If you haven't seen them, go over and follow their YouTube, go over and follow their Rokfin. They are lit. And the thing I love most about them is that they are so open to have conversations and change their perspective. And you can also learn from them as well. And I think what they're putting together, something called Camp Dada. And they promised me, fam, that every single time that they have schmores, they're going to talk about geoengineering. So I'm very happy about that. With us today, the Bank sisters, Keisha and Court.
Hello.
Hey,
how's it going?
Hey, nice to meet you, like officially. Thee.
I know, yes. We saw you tangentially.
Yeah,
you've been on Steve's show multiple times and you haven't been on ours, so I thought that was strange. So yeah, I'm glad that we connected.
Well, it's interesting because it's funny because we've went to just recently, I'd say about a year ago, because we've been doing this for 5 years, the Convo Couch, somebody had introduced me as a common sense leftist because we were talking about elections, we were talking about protocols, and I was just like, well, I kind of still, no matter what, I still kind of look at myself as a leftist when I go down to the nitty gritty, but obviously I've moved towards populism. But to be open to listen and understanding and not demonize somebody who thinks different than you, I think it's very important. And, that's why I've just kind of run with it. What have you ladies experienced so far, now in this business? You guys been doing it for like a year, right? Well, you had made statements on our show that you said that a lot of leftists don't seem to live in the real world. What do you mean by that?
Wow. I love how you come with a quote.
I know.
I got them written down, Court. Court, I got them written down, so be ready.
I love it.
Got your own words.
I believe it was me, Courtney, who said that. I did. I think sometimes leftists don't live in the real world. I just think that there tends to be, a lot of people who, I don't know if it's because they're stuck inside or what it is, but they read too much theory and they want everything to apply perfectly to the world. And it doesn't. It just doesn't always work like that. Yeah. And you have to work with people you don't agree with on every single thing to come to some sort of solutions. And we really could be making so much more progress, I feel like, in expanding the left if we didn't have, such purity tests all the time. But, that's pretty much what people like to do, just infight and
argue with each other instead of, fighting the man, I guess. And gosh, the way that they have come up with all of these different kind of gatekeeping things to decide what is or isn't left that's getting really out of control, because it's almost like, everyone can't be the radical left. Like, who are going to be the anarchists now? Who are going to be the, it's almost like they're making it so exact that it's becoming a smaller and smaller group of people. It's really problematic. They got to start opening their, what happened to the Big Ten? I'm confused. So.
It's by design.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. I think what's left is in question nowadays with everything that's been going on. A lot of the people who call themselves left, for example, in the United States, the Squad is considered left, right? And they continuously urge everybody to vote for Democrats. They have the same foreign policy as a lot of the neocons and neoliberals. They haven't done anything really to really give the working class any tangible solutions. It's more of slogans and feel-good tweets. Oh, wouldn't it be great to have healthcare every other day? Or wouldn't it be great to have a $15 minimum wage? It's like, no, it's 2022. That's not enough now. What are you doing for the people? And so it's this whole idea where that is considered left. And I think in some ways, that's by design, because then, of course, the right comes in, right? And they're like, oh, well, they're commies and they're communists, and Biden and Kamala are communists, and California is a communist haven. And it's like, obviously not, it's neoliberal, but it's in turn, you have these two focused on each other, and they're just fighting and screaming at each other, like the clip we just saw. And there is no solution being put out there. It's just a screaming match. And meanwhile, the entire country continues to deteriorate, and the infrastructure and people's lives continues to fall apart, and nothing gets done. And so I think that is by design, and people like you guys and people like us and all kinds of people that are actually trying to get the working class to talk to each other and to find solutions are where the solutions are going to come from. Because it's not going to come from, you pulling out your checklist and saying, okay, who did you vote for? And are you left enough based on these 5 principles and this and that? Like, that's not a realistic thing to look forward to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, what do you see in the United States right now that, like, do you see it in any way, shape, or form ready for any sort of revolutionary movement, any sort of movement that we've been seeing in Europe? We've been seeing, people rise up, take to the streets that we're seeing in Latin America. Is that a possibility in the United States at this moment?
No. Yeah. Unfortunately,
we'll go after the second Camp Dotto. Maybe we can get there. We got to get people. We're on now.
That's what we're trying to prepare people for, if anything. But even before I, was more into politics, just like, years and years ago, I remember I used to always tell people, like, Americans are just too comfortable. And until we're on a breadline or something, like, you're not going to see any kind of revolution out of these people, because because first of all, someone has to be over someone. So I have to be better than the person who, works at Wendy's or whatever and is giving me my drink. And then, they have to be over someone else and someone else. So the left certainly doesn't help, but America as in general, just because of capitalism, is way far off.
Yeah. And I think it's just the propaganda. Like, I think that they're keeping us so, just so busy with all of the ways that they've cut things down. Now work is all like gig work. So you've got to have multiple jobs. And, even if you're trying to get your message out online, you've got to do TikTok and Instagram and this. And so it kind of, I just feel like they're doing a better job of kind of like taking our attention away from actually being able to build movements. And so it's the thing that I've been finding is, it's mainly like the internet and kind of the propaganda around that I think is also keeping people really seemingly comfortable. Because I think one of the things that they're really pushing now is so much consumerism with the social media that people who do need help, you don't use your social media to say, like, I'm struggling. Sometimes people do, but usually people are only saying, like, the best of things that are going on. And so it really makes it difficult for us to say, like, actually, my job sucks and I need help with this or childcare with this. So, I think that they're really controlling us with trying to create also these perfect kind of social media lives, which is why I'm just against perfection. And people are people. Let people say whatever they're going to say. They're going to mess up. And we just can't be looking for like perfect allies, like we've got to really figure out how to find some middle ground.
Yeah. And I find it, the one thing that I think is so funny, last summer, I guess, pretty much everyone was talking about socialism so much. And I just kept thinking like, yeah, but when are you going to do, you can retweet that someone needs mutual aid, but isn't the whole point of being a socialist or being on the left, aren't you supposed to be helping other people? And shouldn't that be all people? But it seems like the left is even more segregated than the right. So it's confusing to me.
Yeah. There's some great, interesting points. Fam, did you want to follow up? Because I have like about 6 different ways till Tuesday I can go with this one. Or do you want me to just jump right into it?
Can I tell you guys Can I tell you guys just one thing that I think is very topical on this subject is I came to the left kind of like through Bernie, Twitter, and all of these kind of things. And I would say like, Convo Couch, I knew of Convo Couch and like Nico and all kinds of things. And I just know that because of the gatekeeping, I had never knew a reason why, but it was just always like, oh, well, you can't associate with certain people. And there was never really a reason why. And I think like that's something more that I'm learning is like to not take other people's word for it. Usually they have no real excuse. They set these weird boundaries and you're almost like not allowed to ask questions. And it stopped, I think. It's like, wow, I could have actually like invested more and learned more about your channel way before. But because I was like, oh, well, does this make me a bad leftist? This is what this person's saying. And, come to find out the person who's saying that is like, at TYT or at, majority. Right. But yeah, I think like that's another reason why I just can't stand, when we're like, debating, you can't talk to this person or this person.
That's by design. That's the cancel culture. And that goes back to what the man is, right? Like I think Courtney said earlier, the man. And I think that what the man is a different thing than it was 20 years ago, where the left used to understand what the man is. Now it's the right, it seems, that understand what the man is, which is this global governance of sorts and whatnot. Because we've been paying attention to your tweets over here and everything. Court, you don't tweet as much as, Keish, you don't tweet as much as Court, but the other day we were paying attention and said the Court was like paying attention to the food lines, right? You were talking about the food distribution. And that's not something that leftists talk about. That's something a lot of conservatives or right-wingers talk about because they're talking about this greater plan, this one world government. So what I'm asking you ladies right now is plain and simple, because what does it mean to be left nowadays? Now that you're in this space, you've had some form of black pilling, you're open to learn stuff, right? What does the left mean? Because the left used to be, we stand for everybody's individual freedoms. What they want to be is up to them, and we're going to support that. But now it seems the American left, because like Fee said, there is no left in America, it's an American left. Now it seems like they want to push their ways and their beliefs and their cultures upon everybody else, and not let them talk to certain people and cancel them if they do so. So what does it really mean to be left to you ladies?
That's a great question. And I think where I kind of started questioning that to myself, because once it got to this point, like especially with COVID and stuff, where like we couldn't even have conversations or you couldn't have a difference of opinion about mandates or whatever. And it was like, oh, well, you absolutely want the destruction of everyone. And I was like, well, actually, I can see this side. I can see this side. I'm
anti-business side.
It was just so odd to me how the left, I thought, was supposed to, pride itself on kind of discussion and intellectualism and all of this stuff. But no, it's really more a set of following a set of rules. And that's when it really started making me question. And then a lot of the stuff with the censorship, leftists cheering on censorship was very odd to me. Like, are we afraid of ideas? I don't understand this. So those kind of things, I thought that the left was kind of more so, for freedom of speech and anti-censorship. So those things really started to make me question where the left is going. I don't know. What do you think?
It makes me wonder, like, I guess in my mind, I thought that the left was made up of like anarchists and people who did Occupy Wall Street and like way more like radical people. And like, you know, the squad was like the least of it, you know, like the progressives were like, you know, not quite pushing enough. But now it seems that it's only, I mean, it does seem like it's a very like professional managerial class type of thing. Like, I think that people like to think that they're not neolibs, but it seems like they're subscribing to all the same sorts of, you know, philosophies of the neolibs, if you really break it down, because it's like, oh, well, you didn't read this and you didn't study that and you don't believe this. So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I would consider myself like more of an independent at this point because, you know, it's almost, both sides are terrible. There's only two sides and they're both terrible. So I would rather, you know, be an independent and deal with people who deal in the real world, are realistic, and, you know, have some ideas on like actually doing things and not just being on Twitter all day and arguing.
Yeah, those are very good points. I think in the United States, like I said, what's left is very confusing at this point. And I think the fight in the United States isn't even about being left or right anymore. I think there are examples of, for example, the other day we had a panel where we talked about China with 3 different perspectives. I think that the most productive conversations sort of stem from, let's get to the bottom of the truth. Let's try to focus from the truth. What's been happening a lot with both the left and the right is they stem from their ideology first. So like they have these set of beliefs, and based on these set of beliefs, either you're with them or against them. And I think it's stronger on the quote unquote left because they have these parameters. For example, the whole Jimmy Dore, Nina Turner situation. I'm bringing it up because I saw one of your tweets about it. There was obviously Nina Turner saying he was a racist because he pointed out, you know, her support of the FBI and this whole thing about the liberals and a lot of the left cheering for the FBI. You sort of mentioned it, you know, cheering for censorship. It's just very confusing because at one point, what was supposed to be the left was very much about the First Amendment, very much about freedom of speech, very much about, you know, this anarchist type of, yes, Occupy Wall Street movement. And that is no more, at least in the majority of what is known as the left. And so that was obviously something that was looked on negative by some people. Like, how can you just call this guy a racist based on the fact that he disagreed with you? But that's a common behavioral tactic nowadays. Right. Misty put this typo. She did a typo where she said something about, she meant to say grown ass adults, and the G and the B are next to each other on the keyboard. So it was said be brown ass adults. And a plethora of people are online right now calling her a racist, saying that she called brown people, she assholes or whatever, like that she's racist. And it's obviously a typo, but it's almost like this sector of what was supposed to be left has turned into this mob that would have like been the equivalent of the mob that, you know, did the whole Salem witch trials, right? And that was just like, burn women at stake based on just like this mob mentality. That's what it seems like to me. There's no discussion. There's no nuance. They're just like, okay, this person's a racist. This person's that. And you can't talk to this person because then you're also fash by design. Like I was fash confirmed, like, I don't know how many times.
Red, brown alliance.
I don't have a bone of fascist in me. I despise fascism. And if anybody ever talks to me, they could quickly get that out. Like you could literally know that within 5 seconds of knowing me. But it's just this idea that if you are open-minded to talk to, say, a libertarian, who libertarians I argue with all the time, but I will talk to them. It's like, oh no, this is absolutely blasphemous. And so you have the scarlet letter on you. And I think that's why it's not attractive anymore. And a lot of people started going to the right. And I don't think that's necessarily the answer either. I think the answer is really just going for the truth. And that's why I appreciate what you're saying is going independent, right? Like, what do you think are the solutions then, if that's the state of the left in the United States?
I mean, for me, it's just like, whatever, fuck it, fuck the label. I'm just like, I will drop the label so quick. Oh, well, like whatever is going to be to what. I just feel like everything's always co-opted, right? So that's why I feel like whatever, if the left is not living up to the ideals, I still have the same standards and beliefs and the things that I think we need to achieve. So whatever, cut it. Let's start something new, you know? Definitely it's not the right, but I think that there's got to be some sort of a shift or some sort of a middle ground, because where did all those people who did vote for Bernie Sanders and then vote for Trump go? You know, I mean, there are tons of those people. And there's still tons. I mean, and that's so funny that you were saying the thing about Misty. That's actually kind of the scenario of how we kind of got started doing more political commentary, is we were talking about Brianna Joy Gray's interview with this Jewish author, Talia Levin, and Talia had said, you know, we've got to punch Nazis and we've got to take them all out, take out all the Nazis. And you know, to me, I was like, well, isn't Joe Biden a Nazi then by your definition? I mean, he's put how many black people in jail? You know, it's calling a Nazi. It was just, it's so interesting the way that, like language is used. And I think that that's 100% why people are pushing away. Nobody wants to be labeled for asking a question. Nobody wants to be labeled for just being like, listen, I'm going to agree to disagree, but I don't hate you as a person. You know, there's got to be room for that. Or otherwise you can't go forward.
Yeah, totally. Fee, I agree with what you're saying about the truth. I mean, the truth is not always roses, I guess. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the truth sucks, but you still have to deal with it. And I feel like on the left, they just try to like skirt around it as much as they can to make it fit whatever narrative they want it to fit, but it's still not the truth. So it's not going to work in the end.
Did you guys have an account taken down?
Did we?
No, you don't have the Banks sisters. That's not you guys, is it?
No.
Okay, because there was a Banks sisters that was not working. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Pasta. I just have a follow up. So, what do you think that this might be a hard question, but do you think that independent media could do better and focus on other things that aren't like just focused on like the drama and the back and forth and the, you know, just like, I mean, Cenk Uygur and all those people, like I said before you guys came on, I think they wouldn't be anything without all this attention paid to them and stuff. Like they live off of this. They mention someone's name in order to get somebody to say something. And there's so many things that don't get covered and so many things that need to be talked about. And the aspect of solutions, do you think that independent media could do better? And what do you suggest on that?
Okay. I think that it's a whole battle of several egos, you know, at the top. And I think obviously if TYT and Majority Report, I mean, they have each over like 1 million followers. And I just look directly at what the right is doing. How come they're able to have these conferences with their independent media, some of their mainstream media, the politicians are there. Our independent media gets shunned. It's all still so hierarchical. Whereas in other, on the right, you know, I feel like they kind of actually use all of their independent media more as arms. I feel like then we kind of need to make like a stance against them or like do a protest against them because they have all of the money and they have all of the resources. And if they're not going to do anything about it, then they need to move out of the way. You know, I mean, somebody like Cenk, he obviously wants to be at the top and is very focused on electoralism. And I think we kind of have to look beyond that too, you know, and also bring in kind of an arm of some more fun things with the
it just doesn't, I mean, it would just like when you look at it in comparison, I mean, and I don't know, maybe it seemed like right around the time that we got into this, over 2020 and the pandemic and stuff, we were watching news, I thought, that was, you know, reporting from overseas, like a lot of stuff that you wouldn't hear on the mainstream media. And it seemed to have really tapered off really fast probably just because the YouTube algorithm, you know, responds to people getting in stupid fights. So, I mean, and it just seems like that's been just like continuously feeding. So we definitely got to get away from that. And I think like it's just such a waste of people's talents to not let all different kinds of people with independent media be embraced.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think the reason why you see a lot of the right independent media getting propped up by some of the bigger names on the right is because that they're only picking the ones who cheer them on. Like they're, you know what I'm saying, they're minions. They're people who are on their team who have the same ideology. There's no pushback. A lot of us that are considered on the left that are pushing back, we speak a different language than our leftist establishment media and stuff like that. And I agree too. I think you said more fun, right? Right. That's why we started the Convo Couch. I figured I can bring Fee's intelligence with my good look and my sense of humor and make it more enjoyable for the people that get involved. And that's why we've been able to do what we have to do. I have to question, I have to digress a little bit too as well, because there's two ways we can go, but I want to get back to this other question. Do you really think that capitalism is the issue? I mean, do you think that socialism is the solution, or do you think, like as I do, that elitism, the people, no matter what system it is, that they'll be able to control it, all the elites or the 1% or whoever the oligarchs are, whether it be capitalist, communist, socialist, or whatever? Go ahead.
I hear there are definitely oligarchs do exist. Absolutely.
We live in
right. Yeah. So.
Coming from the system we have now, if we go to socialism, of course, the elites. I mean, we have to live in the reality we have now. So yes,
that's
the elites
the problem.
are the biggest issue because they have all of the jobs, all of the money.
Yeah, and I think part of it too with the capitalism is that we don't have a strong enough sense of community anymore to actually make socialism work the way it needs to. I mean, luckily for us, our next door neighbors, bring us eggs, every 2 weeks or whatever, and we give them tomatoes or this and that. But like, that's not everybody's life. And a lot more people are not on a kind of level to work together like that. So then I think capitalism does become a big part of what's keeping people focused away from moving towards communities, and also like really selfish and only focused on themselves, which is not going to work in socialism either.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. I mean, fam, I have a quick follow-up as I was going to say, what do you think what is attractive to you about socialism that says, hey man, capitalism has this is a negative point about capitalism, where socialism actually is a positive thing?
Working myself to death, I guess, is the main thing.
Labor, right?
In my mind, I would like to live on like a freaking commune or something. Maybe
too.
I'm too far gone, but because I feel like there's something to be said for like sharing the work and bartering and like you work on this thing and also something to be said for people being able to kind of do what they are good at and what makes them happy. And I think the way we're stuck now, you just have to do whatever can make you money. And that's like a very sad life to lead. So maybe, it's idealistic, of course, and never going to happen. But
no, Keish, don't say that, because I want that. I said that this morning on the morning show. It's like, yeah, I talk about Bitcoin and all the future, the monetary systems, but I want to return to a simple life. I've said this a million times. I want to go to a place where I can grow tomatoes next. And now that I know you know how to grow tomatoes, let's get some good heirloom seeds and let's go to work.
I love it. We're working.
We got some potatoes.
We need to get back to the simplicity and get more closer to our food. Everything we put in our body, the state has put out modified, processed, unhealthy crap. No matter what it is, we need to get back. And I'm glad you're paying attention to the food supply lines, because that's the way you really control a society, is when you have control of their food. Give them 3 days of starving and forget about it. Chaos breaks out.
Absolutely.
Well, and this was touched on something that Fee had asked earlier as well. Like, what else could, the bigger channels be focusing on? Like in my ideal world, we talk a lot about the drought in the West. Because so much of our food source comes from there. And also once the water runs out, we'll have a bunch of climate refugees. Just seems like people are not really thinking into the future. And it would be refreshing if there was, it seems like it's become like a right-wing thing to have preparedness, but it's interesting because left people are supposed to believe in climate change, but we don't have bug out bags, or we don't have, water supplies or guns or anything, right. But then the right doesn't, but they're prepared. It's just so interesting. So I wish that we prepared ourselves a bit more, whether that be like, talking about self-defense, if it is talking about gold. I mean, listen, we need to know some things, but I just think it is odd how kind of these survival skills we don't ever seem to touch on, or the real life impacts of climate change. You would think that they'd talk about it more on the left.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys changed your perspective in the last few years or since you started your political journey? Because, for example, I started being extremely pro-Bernie. I started being not extremely, but more about gun control. I was more about, controlling, making sure that people didn't get shot, even more about something like a Green New Deal, and all of that is just gone. Like, I'm just like, Bernie Sanders is a disappointment. The Green New Deal is the Build Back Better, Great Reset bullshit. I mean, not that the environment isn't a problem. I believe it is. Some people don't, but I believe it is. And I believe there is an issue. I just think it's being exploited by the wealthy who fly their jets around all the time, and they tell you to recycle or to not drive as much. And it's a war on the poor is basically, I think, what it comes down to. And I went from, being more about gun control to being like, no, you're not taking away our guns because this is the only mechanism we have to fight when the police and the military are armed. So that was in a relatively short period of time that I went in that direction, but I still hold the same values of like collectivism and empathy and being able to live in harmony with the environment and with each other. So that hasn't changed, but just my perspective on having to, defend ourselves, on understanding the environment, understanding the land, understanding that we're being poisoned, all of that is at a higher level. Where have you guys come in terms of the development of your political journey?
I would say, I'm pretty similar to you in that sense. Like I was just thinking about this the other day. It's like, my values have not changed. Like I still like collectivism and like, let's work together and all that stuff. But I think just now that we know Bernie was just like, what a letdown. Like, I think that has thrown people just like into a tizzy because it's so crazy to even, it's so crazy to think that he had all of this momentum and people were apparently on these same ideals that we're talking about. And then it's like, was he not really into it? Clearly, because he just like walked away from it and didn't continue it on. So I think the transition from, believing that the government could do anything or help with anything, for me, I think it has just like gone away really fast. I don't know what electoralism is going to do for us. I don't know, but I also don't know what else we can do. We are unfortunately really stuck in this duopoly that we're in. But anyways,
it's depressing at times, isn't it, Court?
It's depressing. Yeah.
Yeesh.
Yes.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, it's definitely depressing. I would say, I think I will always respect Bernie for what he did. I think, that was as far as they were going to let him go. And I think it was naive of us to not know that. I think like Professor was it Wolf or Hedges? Maybe Hedges said that or something. He's like, said that's as far as it's going to go. He's not really going to push the Democratic Party. But I think just from that, like I've learned a lot more to not be so naive. But yeah, I would say my interest in electoralism has very much depleted. Whereas I do think that we know some of the solutions. That's why we were thinking the camp is a good idea. We wanted to do kind of a camp idea before anyways. And then we just so happened to come up with other grassroots organizers who, were interested in doing stuff. But I think it's making these systems, if we can, it always makes we're going to need things as society collapses. Whatever you think about climate change, sure. But I'm telling you, there's been more flooding and tornadoes and all kinds of stuff. Plus they're poisoning the water and, burning factories on purpose for food. So I think that we need to have systems in place.
Right-wing conspiracists. They're burning. Fam, do you hear this, fam? They're burning our. Why would they do that? That makes no sense.
Why would they do that?
I know. Why? Somebody's got to get to work and somebody's got to be hungry. So
You're going to have somebody at Camp Data go stand up. I'm like, I thought you were leftist, and stamp off on the beach, cry like, how dare the Bank sisters think for themselves? This is wrong.
Totally could happen. Yeah,
wrong.
We'll go on a nice nature walk and calm them down. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh my God. If you do talk geoengineering, I would love to hear that conversation at Camp Data. I hope to God you do really bring it up. Nobody ever talks about that stuff, and they really
talked about it today in the car. She said, I started looking about more about what pasta.
Oh, about CERN. Yeah.
Geesh, I got a couple movies. I got a couple movies.
And we told other people about toxic skies.
Yes,
okay.
We did. Yes.
So
damn.
We're spreading the word.
They're ahead of me.
I gotta tell you, you know what really did it for us though, Bank Sisters, was elections, right? Like we went into elections, and what we saw, we were like, holy shit, these people in charge will do anything. Anything. And then it just opened up Pandora's box, you know what I'm saying? And we had avenues there. We could have gone this way over here and just, gone along to get along, not do the stories that were really more like interesting and compelling, just play team sports, and we would have been fine. We probably wouldn't have been demonetized now for almost 22 months, which was really a blow. It was a kneecap and stuff like that. But, I think everybody hits that choice. And that's the thing to me that is so intriguing about the Bank Sisters, is that they're willing to get in there and have these conversations that they might get ostracized for, but they're still willing to do it. And that to me is the sign of commentators, political people, activists who have guts and are willing to adjust and learn, because it's really, what you're doing is being, the opposite of what they're doing, which is they're being divisive. You're listening, and that's what we need nowadays.
I don't even, all of that stuff you listen. I just feel like I'm just a stand-up, and it's stand-up. We're just funny gals.
Normal people.
We just are in our parents' basement, and we're curious. That's all. I just feel like
we're also like empathetic, I think, and we do. It's like, as much as I just want to be like, fuck everybody, I don't care. I'm just gonna go out here and make some money and like screw it all. Then 2 seconds later, we'll go down the street and I'll see a homeless person or someone panhandling at the stoplight. It's like, damn it, I wish that I could just be like, who cares, but it's just not, it's not in us, I think, to do that. So that's unfortunate.
That's why we do what we do. At the end of the day, people say, why do you do what you do? We want to see less suffering. That's why we got started. That's why we're here. That's why we're having these conversations. That's why we're doing what we do. Less suffering.
And less suffering for everybody. And I think that's what's concerning me about the left right now is they're almost taking more of a right-wing stance where, right-wing people, I feel like for a long time were like, are very, screw you and want to kill everybody. And I feel like the left are now starting to kind of take that sort of same like attack dog type situation and cancel people and get rid of people. So it's like you want Medicare for all, but only for leftist people or not for everyone. Like it's not making sense. Going to be everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly it. I see it too. I saw it with January 6th when they were cheering on the death of Ashley Babbitt, and I was like, I got canceled by some friends because I was like, I think it was wrong for her to get shot. I'm against police violence, no matter if you are a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter or a Bernie supporter, whatever. But I guess that was the wrong stance to take. I just want to hear about what Camp Data is and like, what is your vision behind it, and why are you doing it? What do you think it's going to bring for the causes that you're passionate about?
Yeah, it's definitely not just us. It's us and a group of, great other people, just from all over, like indie left news and some social, what is it called? Socialist alternative and, anarchist groups and all kinds of things.
Yeah, Lucy from Blue Moon Red Wine, she used to have a show, but she's taking a break from Twitter and streaming and all that stuff now. And Zainab and like lots of, it's a lot of very, a lot of cool people. And
basically what happened is we wanted to we were on a panel with some women, and like RBM, we're also working with them, Revolutionary Blackout Network. And we are on a panel talking about healthcare, and they wanted to do somebody wanted to do just a kind of a regular healthcare march in DC. And, there's a lot of resources that go into that. And it's like, well, what if we use those same resources instead to first, the idea was to go to the Hamptons and be a bit disruptive. But we're not trying to get arrested and give the Hamptons more money than they need. So we were like, what if we built bonds and actually got to know each other? And so a big part of it is skill sharing. So we have some people who are trying to organize their workplace. We have some people who know about like online protection and how to protect your privacy. We know others who know about foraging, gardening, self-defense,
making ointments and like home remedies and herbal medicine and all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff. So people are just going to come and share what they know, and we're going to do like a skill sharing set. We're going to be doing crafts. We'll be doing some actions and like demonstrations, but they'll be more art focused, which is where the Dada name comes from. Because Dadaism is it's like a political art form. And so we really were inspired by that. And so we're going to be doing some things where we can kind of at least get the attention of maybe the rich people, but at least where we won't get in trouble, we can be like, oh, we're doing a TikTok. But where we can at least make somewhat of an impression, and we'll be recording the fireside chats that we're having, because each day we'll have a focus. So the climate crisis, how can we help each other? What solutions do we know? So in terms of like gardening in your apartment or, foraging and things like that. We've got Medicare for all. That's another focus. And then we've got general strike. And, these are things, general strike, that's been coming up a lot recently with Chris Smalls, I guess. And with something like RBN, they tried to have a summit, months ago. And it's an important conversation to keep happening, because if we really are to do a general strike, we are going to need like a fund. We're going to need to think about what do our disabled friends do if certain businesses shut down. There's a lot of perspectives that need to be taken in place. So I think any conversations we can have about that are productive. And then generally, we're just going to go and have fun, because working class people, not enough of us get to relax or
enjoy, or just like straight up enjoy nature. I mean, the Hamptons is a pretty nice place. It's beautiful up there. So, part of it is just going to be like people who are, apartment bound and don't get to get out very much. We have quite a few people coming who are single and like live by themselves. So, they might be lefties kind of on their own and they don't have anybody to talk to. So we're hoping to get some really good conversations going, maybe some strategizing, maybe some people build some bonds and go off and, make a mutual aid group together or something. I think it's going to be, we're hoping it's going to be something that can continue, and that other people can kind of take up the mantle, and we'll give you all the information. We've done all the legwork, and then you take it off, and maybe we'll just show up and hang out.
Yeah, there's actually a meeting for a West Coast version of sorts to start happening. So we're meeting with some people who are interested in that, who all live out there, and maybe there'll be multiples, but we definitely want it to spread, because it's just, the fighting online, it goes so far, and it's very circular. And, this is a time where it's crazy to me. Back in the day, without phones or social media and stuff like that, they were able to have like the Underground Railroad, or they were able to have the Green Book. But we're like, how hard it is to get 50 people to tell me if they need a sleeping bag or not. Oh my God. It is.
When is the day for the East Coast?
Herding cats.
Yeah. That's like trying to listen, we were with a bunch of progressives doing activist work during the Bernie Sanders campaign. Discussions about what we were going to order for lunch were ridiculous and out of hand.
2 hour long discussion.
I noticed that I looked at the pamphlet and it said that geoengineering during s'mores. Are we going to talk about Epstein during breakfast? Or when are we fitting Epstein in there? Transhumanism and the Great Reset.
Pasta, you need to go. You need to be a part of it, okay?
Yeah, it's Labor Day weekend.
Which is what? Well, give me the date.
September 2nd.
So it's like right around the corner.
Yeah, it's coming up. We're getting a little nervous now, but
don't get nervous. It's gonna be awesome. Do you guys have rules as far as like filming or whatnot? Are you guys just keeping everything out of there and whatnot? So there's rules, so there can be free conversation, or is it just gonna be like, hey, do you mind if I record this or put this up, or what are you guys gonna do about that? Just curious.
No, we definitely want to record the fireside chats, because we want to be able to, share some of what like we talked about and experience once we're out of the camp. So it's not just the people going to the camp who are enriching from it. Things like that and other little combos that we might discuss, but other ones might be off the record. That might be.
Yeah, we might have like some long walks that are quiet.
Oh, nice. You guys are just camping on the beach, or do you guys have a campground that you're going to?
It's like a campground, yeah, and then there's beaches around. But yeah, that's the trick of the Hamptons is they have public beaches, but no parking or anything. So yeah, that's why we've had to fundraise and stuff, because they put in weird barriers, like to rent the campgrounds, it's an extra little $50 just for like a little green card. It's so weird, right? Because they don't want us. They don't want people. Yeah. So you have to like get a fire bowl. You can't. It is kind of like a sandy area, but you can't just like dig out a place and do a fire. You have to get an official fire bowl that's made out of metal. Just another barrier. So.
Is it 2 days or 1 day? How long is it?
3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
3.5 days. Yeah.
Damn. Well.
Damn.
I can be there in spirit, so for sure. Just, you know what I'm saying? My mom lived out in the Hamptons for a while when she got remarried, so I would spend some time out in the Hamptons. It's a beautiful spot. Fam, do you got anything else for the Bank Sisters?
No, that's it, fam. Thank you, ladies, for coming on and having these conversations. They were very enjoyable, and I wish you luck on the Camp Data stuff. And yeah, just if you want to share where people can find you and where they can go to help support your cause. That way the audience knows.
And they're going to be back on AM Wake Up. They're regulars now over there. They've been on twice. We're like trying to like the Bank Sister Mondays, like, you know, that kind of thing. You know that, ladies, that we started Rumble there. We're going to be starting Rumble on the Convo Couch. We just had like, we put up some clips that your clip is like the #2 clip there, whatnot. I thought it was very interesting and stuff like, yeah, I think that like, I think a lot of people on Rumble found it intriguing because like, maybe they thought it's like, oh, these are conservative women, but then they say like, oh, they're kind of leftist, but they're very open and are having these conversations. Some of the comments, they're very intrigued by that. And I think there's something there. What you ladies are doing now that you're doing Camp Data, and the fact that you're just opening your door and saying, okay, I don't give a shit what the haters do. I don't care how they try to cancel us. We're going to have the conversations that are important to us, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. I think there's something great in that, and I commend you for doing that. So please, I'll shut up and let you plug your stuff.
No, thanks. Totally appreciate it. This was so great to finally meet you, Fiorella. This is really cool. And Pasta, good to see you again. Thanks for having us on. Definitely a fun conversation. You can find us on YouTube at the Bank Sisters, not the ones that are gospel singers, but us. You'll see the difference. No worries. Hey now.
No gospel singing during Camp Data. You're not going to do Let's Go.
Yeah. And you can, Camp Data, you can follow on Twitter at Info Change Camp, or you can just look up Camp Data. DADA, and let's see what else we are still accepting donations, and we need a couple sleeping bags still and a couple fire bowls, and you can find that info at GiveButter, and you just look up Camp Data Fund and on GiveButter and we'll be there.
Yeah, look at our Twitter.
Yeah, our Twitter.
Yeah, our Twitter has the best place, the Camp Data Twitter. Yeah, you can follow me at Courtney Banks on Twitter, always talking trash, probably not helping the cause, but blowing off steam.
you do good. You do well. I like your.
That's right. Sometimes I'm going to curse everybody out, but this is very cathartic, actual conversation. It was lovely to meet you all. Lovely to be back.
Lovely to meet you too.
Yeah, cool.
Thanks, guys, so much.
Thanks for having us.
Do you guys have a date for the West Coast one or no? Not yet.
No, it's just the brainstorming.
Just the brainstorming, you know what I'm saying?
Pasta, you have to help out with that one.
Las Vegas, Lake Mead, where they're draining it, getting stuff and bodies are showing up. Maybe we can do like a...
There's probably a buried campsite there anyways, or something that was underwater. We'll just use that.
Yeah. There you go. Let's do it. The Bank Sisters, ladies and gentlemen, Keisha and Court. They are awesome. They are lit. You'll see them soon back on the Convo Couch and AM Wake Up. We love them. Thank you, ladies. Good luck with the camp.
Thank you.
Bye, ladies. Bye.
They're awesome. Bank Sisters, fam.
Yeah.
They're lit. I told you.
I'm sorry. I should have provided their proper Twitters. I don't know who put that, but I knew that wasn't their Twitter.
That is not their Twitter, but it's okay.
No. Okay.
Let's get into this right now, fam.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to the next topic, which is slide 20. And you can go to 21, actually. You can show 21. Don't even show that one. Just show 21. There's 21. Oh, warmongers control the U.S. foreign policy, fam, from Bolton to Markey. And this is something we had in the doc the other day. We'll get caught up on this. But I mean, even though this happened the other day, we can still talk about this because there's some really implications out there of what's going on. So Bolton came on Newsmax the other day and he talked about a death plot. And it was so weird, the timing. And we'll talk about maybe some of the timing from another situation that happened with Salman Rushdie. If you haven't heard, he got stabbed. But it seemed like, fam, that this is the State Department or the intelligence apparatus that is making use of something that happened to manufacture consent against Iran. There are still friggin' nut jobs out there, neocons, who still claim, and I don't know, fam, when's the last time Iran attacked us?
Damn.
Have they attacked us?
No, fam.
I can remember that we removed their government in the first CIA coup, but
yeah.
Let's go to Bolton over here. This is just disgusting. And listen to what he has to say.
Following is involving Iran and the Justice Department officially charging members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard with plotting to assassinate former U.S. Ambassador John Bolton and other senior members of the Trump administration, including Mike Pompeo. Joining us now is Ambassador John Bolton to discuss some of these threats against him. Ambassador, thank you for being here with us. The last time we spoke about a month ago, you weren't able to kind of go into some of the details, understandably, but now you're back here today with us. We're learning a little bit more. We have the affidavit here. This Iranian operative, Shahram Pusarif, wanted you and reportedly former Secretary Mike Pompeo dead. An informant was able to foil this plot, Ambassador, but do you feel you're still at risk seeing that his whereabouts are unknown?
Well, I think it's really not a focus just on me. There are a number of former government officials who I think are at risk from the government in Tehran, and a number of people who are just average American citizens who have said things critical of the government of Iran are at risk of their lives as well. So I think the most important conclusion to draw here is the kind of threat that the government in Iran poses to America. They're trying to kill Americans on American soil, and that's essentially unprecedented in my view, and it constitutes a threat that really we need a stronger response from the Biden administration. You know, it's part and parcel of the threat posed by the Iranian nuclear weapons program, too. They're two sides of the same coin, and both a threat to the United States.
Yeah, Ambassador, we're learning too. Mark Esper, the former U.S. Defense Secretary, was also included with you and Pompeo. So if you're Jake Sullivan and you're with Biden, what do you do? What should they be doing that you feel they are not doing when it comes to Iran, the JCPOA deal?
Well, I think the sum total of Biden administration policy has shown weakness to Iran and unwillingness to take a hard line on the massive Iranian violations of the 2015 nuclear deal, the concessions that the administration has made over the last 18 months to revive the deal, and frankly, the absence of any clear indication to Iran that it is unacceptable not simply to attack Americans, but to plan to attack Americans. We need more of an effort at deterrence. And these two things have come together in the negotiations in Vienna over whether to revive the nuclear deal, where the Iranians have insisted that the Trump administration designation of the Revolutionary Guards as a foreign terrorist organization be lifted, which the Iranians refused. At the same time, the Revolutionary Guards are plotting and actively seeking instruments to kill American citizens. It's been reported, and I believe that the Biden administration response was, well, why doesn't Tehran just commit they won't kill any Americans? How about if you did that? Then we could lift the terrorist designation. That would be a commitment, if the Iranians were willing to make it, that would have about as much force as a commitment they're not going to seek nuclear weapons.
Fam, I don't know about you, but it seemed like he just had a checklist that he had to go down. Make sure that you blame the Biden administration, right? They're being soft, fam. The last 18 months, they've been, moonwalking this Iranian deal that they want to get back in, that Donald Trump got us out of and stuff. And then he has to go hard in the paint to try to make this kind of like, I don't know, like a, 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 I don't know, this parallel that it's American citizens and who the Iranians are going out. Like, homeboy, they don't want to kill me. They don't want to kill Fee. They want to kill you. Remember, you're the plotter of coup d'etat. You're the guy who fucking talks about, we have to take a hard line stance. What he said, we have to punish them more. We have to admit, that they have to admit that they're not going to kill American citizens. They don't want to kill American citizens. They want to kill people like you, people like Pompeo, people who are actively plotting to kill them and their citizens. That's who they want to go away. So stop with this whole freaking correlation to try and make it look like they're killing everyday average citizens. They're not. They want the people who they issue fatwas on people who try to kill them, just like Soleimani and people like yourself, Bolton. Not us, fam. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, they only do that to fearmonger people, and so that people can just support the war. But at this point, they don't need people to support the war as much as they need like the propaganda of that, right? Just of that support. They don't even need real support. They just need to make everybody feel like that everybody else is supporting the war. So.
Yep. Well, the thing about it is, fam, is in the odds, you can go to slide 24 and bring it up. Salman Rushdie the other day was stabbed. He lived. His writing sparked Iranian death fatwa. They issued a fatwa against him for years ago for writing a book in 1988 called the Satanic Verses, and it called for his death. And now I heard they took back the fatwa, but once it's out there, it's out there. You know what I'm saying? Steve mentioned that in the morning show. But it seemed to me this whole Bolton in the State Department that this came around right at some unusual time. Here they can show an Iranian citizen, right, of sorts, who, because of the fatwa that was issued to Salman Rushdie, that they can parlay it, fam, into saying, well, look, now they're threatening to kill our State Department people and people like Bolton and stuff. It just seems like they're trying
to have
people into. Go ahead, fam. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say you can have him. You can have Bolton. They can have him.
Say that. I'm going to
put a little bow on him.
We're going to skip the next two slides, Oz, because we're pressed for time and whatnot. But pretty much it just said everything I'm going to say, that he was stabbed. They issued a fatwa. I mean, this guy, Salman Rushdie, was a regular on Bill Maher. Anybody who went against religion, whatnot, and he was also a cuck. But the thing that's kind of crazy is now that they circled the wagon. So just to keep all that in mind, that was the Iranian section, where you have guys like Bolton who are pushing the kind of the narrative of how Iran is awful and whatnot, but it's Biden and they're trying to kill everyday citizens. Warmongering to the 10th degree. So now we have two warmongers together. Look at this. This is the Eric Bolling and Bolton fam. This is just mind blowing over here. This is what we call warmonger patty cake to see who can be the bigger warmonger out there. You're going to love this.
World, could you think that we're safer now than we were under President Trump when he was willing to put missiles into Syrian air bases with Russians on the base? What's going on here, sir?
He didn't understand, because he didn't understand fundamentally much of anything about international affairs. His decisions were not based on a coherent philosophy or a coherent policy.
But we were safer.
They were erratic.
Safer.
He kept world
under
leaders,
Donald Trump. He kept world leaders.
He signed a deal with the Taliban.
He kept them on their back feet. They didn't know where he was coming from, and that made us safer. I mean, can you? He had President Xi.
He cut a deal with the Taliban to withdraw from Afghanistan. Did that make us safer, Eric?
When he bombed, no, you know what made us less safe?
From Afghanistan make us safer, right?
You know what made us less safe is when Biden pulled us out of Afghanistan. 13 Americans died, and now
that was Trump's deal.
And now the Taliban tells us, back off, don't kill Al Qaeda.
That's right.
Are you out of your mind, sir?
Same thing they would have done under Donald Trump. No. Who cut the deal, Eric? Who cut the deal?
Who delivered the deal?
Donald Trump cut the deal.
No. Trump wanted to.
What would Trump have done? What would Trump have done had he been reelected?
Remember, sir? Let's be
honest.
No,
he did not. He absolutely did not. He did. Eric, you don't know what you're talking about. He wanted everybody out. He cut a deal to do exactly that.
Anyone that disagrees with you, we don't know what we're talking about. Trump said leave 2,500 there until we have a smooth transition.
He did not. Look, he said that after he cut the deal. The deal cut us down to 0. That's what Trump wanted. He wanted everybody out. The record on that is completely clear.
Over time, Biden pulled them out. Well, with Americans still there.
No, read the deal. Eric, have you ever read the deal?
Oh, stop it.
Yeah,
Stop
I know you got to go before you're embarrassed even further.
I'm embarrassed.
Fam, I mean, like literally, they're arguing over like who is safer because they drop more bombs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, go right ahead, fam. This is just.
I mean, all I have to say is just it's not a counter narrative. They're just basically, like you said, arguing over who's the better warmonger, and who protected America more. Completely dismissing, a lot of the things that happened in Afghanistan. And I agree that the pullout of Afghanistan could have been better, but it needed to happen. And what the United States right now is facing, I think it's been a year to the month right now since they did pull out of Afghanistan, is the way that was done, where people were clinging onto the planes and weren't allowed on the plane, and they were clinging onto the wings of the plane, and then they discovered like human remains on the engines and stuff of the planes because people literally died because the planes took off with people on them. And of course the Taliban and all of that. The United States has every bit of fault in what is happening in Afghanistan, the starvation, the human rights violations, the crisis right now that they're experiencing all falls in the United States. And those people now do need help. And of course, the United States isn't going to help them without any sort of, reward to do so. And it's just really sad, the whole situation.
Well, about now, fam, you'll hear somebody come along with the Ukrainian flag in their bio and go, see, that's why you can't let either faction of the Republicans, whether it be the establishment with Bolton or the Trump patriots on the right, they're awful. We have to vote Democrats because we're mitigating damage. Well, here it goes. More U.S. lawmakers visit Taiwan 12 days after Pelosi's trip, fam. And I have your tweet in here, but let me just read about this really quickly. A delegation of American lawmakers arrived in Taiwan on Sunday, just 12 days after a visit by U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her son Paul that prompted China to launch days of threatening military drills around the self-governing island that Beijing says must come under its control. The five-member delegation led by Democratic Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts, fam. Supposed to be a man of peace, right? Supposed to be one of the progressive style. Will meet President of Taiwan and other officials, as well as members of the private sector chip distributors, to discuss shared interest, including reducing tensions in the Taiwan Strait and investments in semiconductors. China responded to Pelosi's August 2nd visit by sending missiles, warships, and planes into the seas and skies around Taiwan for several days afterward. The Chinese government objects to Taiwan having any official contact with foreign governments, particularly with high-ranking congressional leader like Pelosi. And then the follow-up, fam, from the frigging goddamn jerk-offs in the Congress that even want to put more fuel on the fire by going there. Here's your tweet. Please explain.
Well, nothing. I mean, this is the same thing you just said. I mean, this is days after Pelosi landed in Taiwan, and China considers it a violation of the China One policy in terms of, like, not on paper, because the United States doesn't recognize Taiwan. They recognize the China One policy on paper, but they consider it like, in a way, just trying to undermine their lead and their sovereignty. And they're saying that this is, stoking these the flames of war. And obviously China has no desire to go to war with the United States, to start a nuclear war. But of course, the United States continues pushing and pushing and pushing. And, they can't fight a two-front war, guys. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to fight this two-front war. They're trying to go after Russia via Ukraine, and now they're trying to go after China via Taiwan. And it's not going well for them, because China and Russia have much stronger economies at the moment. And they're all of this is doing is bringing them closer together. And if you want to, learn more about the history and about how we got here, I recommend the panel that we just did on a Wednesday with Matt Ehret, with Ryan Christian, and with Danny Haifong, who really gave us some insight as to what this means, why this is happening. Oh, the semiconductor situation. I mean, Taiwan is the largest producer of semiconductor, these chips that are needed for your iPhones and for et cetera, right? And Washington seems to want to compete with China on this, and that's pretty much, I think, the underlying economic situation. China responded, of course, showing their military might in Taiwan with these drills and et cetera, but they also responded with sanctions against Pelosi and with actions towards Taiwan to make sure to show that China is in control economically about this. And, you know, the United States is just trying to really undermine their lead in this whole industry. I think that's what this is about. And you pointed it out from day one, Pasta.
I'm going to put the links to Fee's China panel in the chats. They're both in both chats, guys. Go check that out. That was fire. I clipped up some stuff on Twitter that we have up there. If you want a little taste of it from Matt Ehret, we'll clip up some other stuff from some of the participants. That was really fun. It was very eye-opening. It was very understanding. And going back, digressing to this whole mentality on slide 32, that the fact that the Democrats are better than the Republicans, especially when it comes to foreign policy, they both suck. And both of them shouldn't be in charge. They're both awful. Will China mess with warships headed for the Taiwan Strait? Now, fam, Pelosi goes there. They start amping up military drills in the Taiwan Strait. What do? Let's send some warships that way. Good old Joe. Go ahead. Just let the generals or the admirals do whatever they want. The U.S. has thrown down the gauntlet, and this is by Uncle Ray McGovern. A showdown may come in the coming weeks if sanity does not prevail. White House and Pentagon spokesman keep insisting, as Secretary of Defense for Policy Colin Kahl did on August 14th, what's important for us right now is to make sure that Beijing understands that our forces in the regions will continue to operate, to fly, to sail wherever international waters allows. That includes the Taiwan Straits. I think you should expect that we will continue to do the Taiwan Strait transits as we have in the past in the coming weeks, fam. I mean, literally, I don't understand how that can't be saber rattling and how that cannot be can be looked at as a very serious aggression and problem in which we are doing and continuing to do now in the Taiwan Strait and in that region.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to continue pushing it and stoking these ones.
When Democrats also say, oh, well, you know, we're going to be better when it comes to Yemen, and when they said that Joe Biden was going to end the war right away, and he said it in one of his first speeches, and now he's provided more money and more weapons and more military aid, and even the fact that now there are U.S. troops back in Yemen with British special forces is disgusting. Syria still going on. U.S. steals 89 tankers of oil from Syria. And this is from the state media repeating it. And this is from Damascus on August 13th. The U.S. forces sent 89 oil tankers to carry stolen oil from Syria to U.S. bases in Iraq on Saturday. The Syrian state news agency SANA reported the latest oil convoy went into Iraq through a crossing in Syria, which has been used by the United States to send stolen Syrian oil into Iraq, said Sana. This comes 2 days after the U.S. sent a convoy of 144 oil tankers in the same way, Sana added. Sana said the incident is part of America's ongoing violations of international principles and their involvement in plundering the natural resources of other nations and starving their peoples, fam. Remember the old plan? Same as the new plan. The Syrian government has long accused the United States of stealing natural resources in Syria, such as oil and gas. Fam, take a look at this footage. While the U.S. is accusing Russia of stealing Ukrainian grain, the Russian army in Syria is observing the endless caravans of fuel trucks operated by the U.S. Army stealing Syrian oil. And fam, if we don't stop this right here, this is going to be another serious problem. F around and find out is what happened in Ukraine. Continue to F around and find out what's going to happen in Syria. Take a look. You can see it here, ladies and gentlemen. For those who are just listening at home, you see endless runs. This is picked up by a drone of just trucks, oil tankers. They're stealing oil. They're stealing wheat. They're sending out of Syria into Iraq, where they have U.S. military bases, and then flying it out from there. This is disgusting. I mean, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen, how you can say that what we're doing, our presence in Syria, is okay. And this is the rhetoric you get, fam. And you can see this line, guys. It's ridiculous. We should take the oil. We were there. I said, take the oil. Don't leave the oil. They left the oil. Now we need to take the oil. Trump did it. Biden's doing it. The State Department's doing it. The U.S. empire is doing it. The oligarchs are profiting from it. The people in Syria are starving because of it.
So we take what we want. There's one of the differences that I think when people try to say China is just as bad as the U.S., I disagree with that, because there's more of an equitable relationship when they go into these countries. For example, in Latin America, they offer, infrastructure building, things that help build those countries, improve them. I don't see them going in there and trying to take over these countries' sovereignty. The United States does that. And if they don't agree, they take what they want and then they destroy, they vilify, right? I mean, not saying that it couldn't happen, that it isn't happening on some level, but I am saying it's completely different, and you can't equate the two. Same with Russia. You just don't equate the two. This is why Lavrov was met with open arms when he went into Africa, particularly South Africa, because they said, hey, you don't boss us around. They have a history via the USSR of helping decolonize Africa, whereas the United States and the West, particularly, Great Britain, France, and the Dutch countries, have a history of trying to colonize Africa. So you have a completely different sort of relationship. Now, they admit this. In fact, they boast about this. I added these last few things here because this just happened. 40 years ago, the U.S. would have done everything possible to avoid Petro's election. Juan Gonzalez said this. He's a top Biden advisor. And he boasted about this. And he boasted about this just blatantly, right? He said the U.S. would have done everything possible to prevent the election of Gustavo Petro. Juan Gonzalez is a special advisor to President Joe Biden for Latin America. And he stated this during his speech at the Andy Business Congress in Cartagena. Fam, we were in Cartagena.
Yeah, it was.
So he stated this. And then he also said, slide 39, already in power, I would have done almost everything possible to sabotage his government. Literally, he's saying this. These are the policies of the Cold War, which to some extent today for some are a justification for revisionist perspectives that characterize the policies of the United States within a context of local manifestation of an empire. Today, however, according to the senior official, the ideology or when a government is on the political spectrum does not matter. If he is elected and governs democratically, we are going to look for areas of common interest and we're going to advance them, and we are also going to communicate our concerns more. So Gonzalez, who is also of Colombian descent, right? He's a Colombian, has been one of those in charge of taking care of the relationship with Colombia since the victory of Gustavo Petro was announced at the polls. This is a guy the United States has trying to maintain this relationship with Colombia. This guy right here, who's literally saying, if it were me, if it was 40 years ago, we would have already gotten rid of Petro. I mean, this is the United States foreign policy. We're not exaggerating it. We're not saying this because we simply hate the United States. We're literally saying this because this is what it is. And you have to come to terms with it to understand why all these things that keep happening around the world are happening. Obviously, it's an empire. The United States is an empire. I believe it is an empire. I believe you can define what an empire is. I think there are people within the United States that disagree with this foreign policy, but the vast majority of them are powerless, meaning it's really not enough politicians disagree with it enough to do anything about it. We don't have friends in DC. The only people that disagree are people like us that people like Pasta, people who are living in the United States, who see the foreign policy, people who are suffering because the government is so focused on literally controlling the rest of the world. And this is where you can get them, by the way, because they're so focused on controlling the rest of the world that they've lost sight of what the people at home need. And that is an opportunity for the people at home to really do something. It's just a matter of when they're going to do something about it, right? And I think that the bank sister stated it well. We are too comfortable in the United States. People are still too comfortable. Once they have to start getting into breadlines, then it's, I think, where you're going to see the change. But for now, they're just distracted, overworked, underpaid, too comfortable, etc. So that's that section, fam.
Well, you know, it's not just the breadlines and stuff like that. Once they have to worry about the same thing that the people of Syria and Afghanistan, which is bombs being dropped over their heads, you know, maybe they might change their freaking tune there as well, fam. So, yeah, let's get into it. Do you want to do the I really want to talk about
this. You know, we just 52, right? Slide 52.
You want to skip over the Santa stuff and do the Twitter stuff?
Yeah, that's not even in the folder. It's not even in the title. Remember?
What's that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah, this one we've skipped like twice already.
Go ahead.
So slide 52, Oz, I'm just going to go over this really quickly because I think most people know about this, right? So Twitter Safety decided to change the context of their civic integrity policy for the US 2022 midterms, because we know that once the midterms come, you can't talk about anything that contradicts the established narrative. We know this because we know elections, and we know every single time there's an election, they manipulate the media and their social media, gigantic corporate technological entities, to try to basically regurgitate the same narrative. And so basically, in order to translate what Twitter meant by their tweet, starting today, we will further be censoring people from the truth and going after those revealing them, because the government we're clearly in bed with is falling apart and people are seeing through their bullshit narratives, and we can't have that. It's essentially what they mean by this. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people say Twitter is a private company, and it may be on paper a private company, but it's not really a private company. We know this. We know that Twitter is literally changing their policies to fit into what the United States government and the national security state apparatus that pretty much operates the government wants. There is no really, Twitter is its own little private small business company. Twitter isn't, this little innocent small thing. No, it's this conglomerate now. It's part of this whole metaverse thing. It's part of this whole agenda to really feed you a certain type of thought process. And that's what it is. So they basically, from their blog, they said that Twitter is the place to find real-time, reliable information about the 2022 midterms. Whether you're looking for breaking news from reporters, information on voting, or policy positions from candidates, we aim to enable healthy civic conversation on Twitter while ensuring people have the context they need to make informed decisions about content they encounter. Because we're a global service, there's almost always an election happening on Twitter. So they're basically telling you that they're going to adhere to what the journalists they deem appropriate, the content they deem appropriate, the rules they deem appropriate. And so they continue as a part of the Twitter rules since 2018. Our civic integrity policy has helped people find credible information during elections and other civic processes, including in the Philippines, Kenya, Australia, Brazil, and India just this year. So Brazilian elections, what we're going to be doing, what's going to happen with that. And so, yeah, they talked about that. They talked about covering the common types of harmful, misleading information about elections and civic events, such as claims about how to participate in a civic process, how to vote, misleading content intended to intimidate or dissuade people from participating in an elections, to undermine public confidence in an election, including false information about the outcome of an election. Guys, does this seem familiar? I mean, this is literally what they used for the 2020 election. So anything that the mainstream media doesn't consider valid, they're going to shut down. They're going to take your Twitter down. They're going to take your tweets down. And tweets with the content may be labeled with links to credible information or helpful context. And Twitter will not recommend or amplify this content in areas of the product where Twitter makes recommendations. people on Twitter will see prior to liking or sharing labeled tweets. They already do. Whenever somebody shared, I think it was Rocky Bellinger shared a tweet of Rumble or a link to RT, like saying, hey, go watch RT. This is Fiorella. I don't know what he linked, but it was RT affiliated. It literally completely doesn't show it to anybody. It's entirely a shadow ban tweet. It makes people agree to liking this tweet, saying it's a Russia state, blah, 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 blah link. And you have to like literally figure out how to be able to like it. It's not as easy. So this is what they're going to do to anything that they don't like or that they consider misleading. And they said too on slide 58, they are talking about fake accounts, bot accounts, but they also said late last year, we tested new misleading information labels and saw promising results. The new labels increased click-through rates by 17%, meaning more people were clicking labels to read debunking content. So they're going to mark your tweet as being false or something that they, don't see as a plausible thing. And this is just more on 59 about their mission to protect the integrity and to protect the conversation on Twitter during elections. I mean, this is all bullshit. This is all bullshit. And they're preparing for elections. And then they're going to have these moment things and that are going to serve to debunk whatever they say. So let's say, for example, worst comes to worst. Let's say there's a progressive running in Ohio, right? And that they're running against the Democrat and we see evidence. Like when I saw evidence of the primaries, right, where they were doing coin tosses and stuff, they could now label that and say, oh, you're misleading people, you're discouraging people from voting, you're putting out misinformation that this election isn't fair. So now those videos and stuff that somebody like me would have put out before trying to say, oh, look, this election, they're giving provisional ballots or something like that, that can potentially be labeled misleading. Yeah. And we know this is just going to get worse because Twitter is just completely on the side of the establishment. It's on the side of all, telling that this one narrative.
By the way, real quickly, I just want to stop and I want to say something. This is what this is about. Since you've hit this on the nose, this is really what it's about. It's about stopping any potential type of fraud or irregularities, any crime in real time. When Fee was in Iowa, she had left that particular caucus and she had said it's already been said and done. But when she left and a lot of the other media left, all of a sudden they had conjured something up and said, hey, they need to go to a coin flip. And Fee was like, why are they going to a coin flip? They shouldn't be in a coin flip at any time. They could label that as misinformation and take that down right away so we can't catch it in real time. Johnny catching the guy transporting ballots and saying, what's going on over here? This is, this is a questionable thing. They could take it down and say, you can't do that. It's in questionable time. The time I almost got thrown out when all the machines were down and they were providing people with provisional ballots. Hey, what are you doing? You can't do that. Take that tweet down. That is what they're trying to do this time out. They're trying to stop any type of irregularities from happening or being reported in real time. That's the crux of these rules. Go ahead, fam.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I mean, I'm obviously not in the United States right now, but if I was, I wouldn't be paying attention to midterm elections because we don't have fair elections. And this is just more evidence that we don't, because they wouldn't be trying so hard to suppress tweets that they deem as misinformation if it was a bunch of morons lying about the election. That wouldn't be a threat. But because it's a lot of truth that's going to be coming out, that has been coming out, they're trying to suppress it. Same thing with the Russian narrative and the Ukraine narrative. Same thing with the whole COVID narrative. You get the picture, right? Like anything about the 2020 election, all of that. Anything they're trying to suppress, if it wasn't a threat to the establishment, they wouldn't be trying to suppress it. They just wouldn't. It's just it is what it is. Like they wouldn't do that. And so they were, just to finish this up, they're creating prompts to help people what they say understand how to participate in a civic process and proactively share prompts with credible context related to potential misinformation people might encounter online. These prompts may appear in your home timeline, at the top of relevant search results, or in other places. They may add candidate labels to help you identify official political candidate accounts. So let's say Twitter doesn't want to give somebody that's like, I don't know, a alternative third party person a label. They don't want to consider them official. Now they have more of an opportunity to do that now, right? And so again, they're saying they're enhancing the security to protect official, here it is, official, government official candidates for office, journalists, and other people on Twitter whose accounts may be particularly vulnerable during certain civic processes. So they're going to protect the establishment accounts more. This is why people like Louise Mensch can say, hey, SBU, go, Eva Bartlett's here, you should go get her.
Oof.
Yet they take my tweet down pointing it out because Louise Mensch is a verified establishment CIA bot account, essentially. Like she's a propagandist for the narrative managers. And so she is protected by Twitter. And you know, the rest of us aren't. And so again, this is just disgusting. And they're going to monitor spam, and it says they're going to provide transparency, fam. Yeah. This is about transparency around elections. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Everything they're saying is about thwarting transparency. And by the way, fam, what could be more fascistic that not only telling you what you shouldn't listen to and what they're going to take down, but who you should listen to? No, listen to my friend over. Even though I'm a thief, this is my friend. Listen to him.
And this is what it says, right? Pasta just said it. 65, trusted information.
Oh, there it is.
We look to trusted regional experts who can provide the most up-to-date, relevant, and credible information. It's important for us to curate and elevate these voices so you can get accurate information when you come to Twitter. They're literally admitting they're going to curate and elevate the voices they trust, not the voices you trust. Twitter's smarter than you. This app made up of, very wealthy, very corporatized entities, is more intelligent than you to make your decisions for you. You are not allowed to make your decisions. They are doing it for you because you're an idiot and you are going to spread misinformation. That's how they look at this. What gives Twitter the right to decide what you should and shouldn't hear? Oh, but they're a private company. Fuck you. They're not a private company. We know they're not a private company. We know they're not a private company. They use the legal loopholes to manipulate the law to say that they are a private company. But we all know that they're not a private company. We know that this is directly from the government because our government is a corporation. Our government is a national security state apparatus and militarized corporation. That's what it is. It's cosplaying as a government right now, but essentially that's what it is, which is why corporations, as was mentioned before, Citizens United, have more control, have more rights than you, because they get to decide what you should listen to. Why does a platform like Twitter, that it's supposed to just serve for people to tweet their thoughts and blah, 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 have so much jurisdiction on elections? Doesn't that bother anybody? What does Twitter and social media have to do with elections? Just going back to the basis of it, it should have nothing to do with it. Their opinion on politics should be irrelevant. That's why you can't say that they're just a private company that's, social media and tweeting. And if they're just a private company that's only focused on social media, why do they get a say on the US elections, on any elections all over the world? Because they literally mentioned the Brazilian election. So you know what? Twitter is not the private company in terms of what a private company really is. And let's not kid ourselves. They're clearly working with the government to put this out. You could take these words and get them right straight from the Biden administration. Literally. It's the same type of language, the same type of thing.
I really don't have anything to add to that. You said it all there. I mean, once again, they also have protection from being held liable for anything because they entered an agreement. Section 230 of the NDAA states that they can act as long as they're acting as a platform and not a publisher. They're not picking winners or losers. Then they are clear. They are shielded from being sued. Okay, fine. But what happens when they're not, abiding by that law and they are clearly picking winners or losers, and they could say, oh, it's just an algorithm. That algorithm was written by somebody, and that algorithm was written to suppress people like us, independent media. That's what it's all about.
And the truth, to suppress the truth. And the truth isn't going to come from the establishment. It's coming from people like us, people like Julian Assange. This is why he's in jail. And just the last thing, as I said, scroll through. We're not going to go through it very much. But I just want to point out, they suspended Maria Zakharova's Twitter account, right? She's a Russian MFA spokeswoman. And they suspended it for 7 days for basically posting excerpts, like actual excerpts, from the General Igor Kirillov, the commander of Russia's nuclear, biological, and chemical protection troops, about U.S. bioweapons activity. Okay, and they suspended that. And she said the harsh measure came in response to our tweet quoting the Russian Defense Ministry, which stated, and this is why they suspended it, because this is what it said, that the United States Agency for International Development, the USAID, we know it's a CIA cutout, could have been involved in the emergence of COVID-19. That is what she stated. That's not what I'm stating. That's not even what she stated. That's what they stated from the Russian Defense Ministry, just to be clear. That's what they stated. And that is a very, very hefty statement to make. But it was when you're quoting that somebody said this, you're not saying, hey, I think this is what it is. First of all, you should be allowed to do that. But if you want to be, careful, they said the Russian Defense Ministry said this. They still suspended her account. And she said something very real, which I thought was important. She said, it is doubtful that Twitter has sufficient expertise to question the findings of the Defense Ministry that are based on reviewing documents and the latest data. She makes a good point. Twitter doesn't know anything about what is in those documents to make an assessment that it's fake, that it's misinformation. So why does Twitter get to decide, right? And this isn't the first time. She said they keep doing this. The same trick has been used on their embassy. The accounts of the Russian embassies in London and Berlin were suspended. And then she said, all of this is happening amid the Russophobic madness of Western politicians, experts, and even common users, as well as the unprecedented activity of Ukrainian trolls and bots. Tell me again about inauthentic behavior. We literally have just seen, I just mentioned Louise Mensch, and there's these NAFO, right? These NATO little bots going around and reporting accounts. And they're attacking a lot of people that are talking about the Russia-Ukraine situation. They're trying to take accounts down. They're coordinating ways to take accounts down. That's what they're doing. And they have the little dog, Pasta. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's the little dog. I forget what it is. It's like this little, what's the name of the dog, guys? Chat, help me out. It's like this, it's a cute little dog. They have like in their profile picture. No, it's not a Chihuahua. It's like a
whose profile?
The puffy. It's these accounts. They're like bot accounts, right?
Okay.
And they have this little cute dog on their avatar, their profile picture, and they basically go around and report anybody they think is pro-Russia, and they try to coordinate to take accounts down, and that's what they're doing. So this is what she's talking about, and she said, I don't recall a single suspension of a Ukrainian official account, despite generating eye-popping fakes in the style of former Ukrainian ombudsperson Lyudmila Denisova, who was spreading tales about atrocities and rape committed by Russian military officers, basically saying they're spreading a lot of lies, but they don't ever get taken down. And so she said, acting so cluelessly in violation of freedom of speech, Twitter is shooting itself in the foot with stubbornness that deserves a better application. This platform has been stagnating for a long time with almost zero trust from users who are leaving it en masse. So, I mean, I guess she, at the very end, she says, if Hemingway was alive, I'm sure that Twitter would have blocked him too for posting that he is under surveillance and hounded by the FBI. So this is just a lot of truthful words coming from Maria, coming from, Putin. They're recognizing what is happening here. And anybody that says something that is contrary to whatever narrative the establishment is pushing, which is Russia's bad, Ukraine good, Azov Battalion good, elections are fair and transparent, COVID, everything you read about COVID from Dr. Fauci has been accurate. I mean, guys, you get the picture. Like, it's everything that is completely false. And so that is where we're at, guys. So again, diversify your content. Follow me on Telegram, because I don't know, like tomorrow they could just, take me down, take any of us down. And that's that. Like, try to diversify your content and go on to other places, because Twitter is just is getting worse and worse every day.
Okay. By the way,
yeah,
it's a Shiba Inu. Is the dog film?
Shiba Inu? Yes, it's a Shiba Inu.
Right.
Yeah,
I had to read it over before I even repeated it out. Let's read some Super Rays.
Yes, they're so cute. Yeah, read some Super Rays. The dogs are really cute, but they're using them for
anti-Russian. Hello, Combo Couch. Vegas needs rain. That's from Arthur Carter. We just had rain the other day, man. Trey Wright, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. As always, appreciate it. Same thing. What's up, Trey? James Stark 1, James Stark 2. Thank you for the Super Ray contribution. As always, appreciate it. On the couch. You got an extra one. Kent Woods, thank you so much. Thanks for the great discussion, y'all. Thank you, Kent Woods. And ARAM Combo Couch rocks. Fighting the good fight. Thank you so much, guys. Do us a favor. Share this stream out there. It's really rough right now. The waters, a lot of suppression, a lot of shadow banning. It's kind of crazy. We can have a show. We can have 1,500 people on it. We can have a show. We can have 200 people on it. And then people always say, I didn't know your show was live. The bell didn't ring. Well, that's what they're doing to us. But we do also appreciate all those people who go on over to Rokfin over there and help us out. Fam, anything else to do? Say? Right now?
Moscow pizza is better than Chicago.
Fam, I am not endorsing that fight. I'm not getting into that. That's between you and Kit, okay? So I'm not even getting involved in that because I can't speak for Moscow pizza. I think Chicago pizza is good. I just don't think it's as good as New York pizza.
I will send reinforcements into Chicago from Moscow.
Fam, you are crazy. Guys, we want to thank everybody who joined us. We should be on Rumble next week. Starting next week, we should be on Rumble, hanging on out, checking it out over there. But remember, if you go over to Rokfin and subscribe, if you got $9.99 for a monthly subscription, you'll get everybody's content across the board for free, and that means all of it. So go ahead and do that if you can. If not, we can just appreciate you liking and sharing, getting it out there. We have a givesendgo.com/support the Combo Couch. Thank you to everybody who's led some money over there. You guys are amazing. We'll be firing that back up full speed as soon as we get out the details from Brazil, which is being so hard on me right now because I don't speak Portuguese. But we're going to get through when we get on over to Brazil for the first round and check it out. Fam, anything else special going on? You working on the desk tonight?
Yes, I am.
And over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. How many more days left?
No, this is it. So if you want to watch Rumble, Odyssey, Gab is the other one we're on too.
Yeah, 5 days on, 5 days off. Is that how it goes?
Yes.
All right, guys. So you know how that goes. I'm going to be on Frank's Stank Analysis with Steve. Stank Analysis at 3 o'clock in about an hour and 21 minutes. So go ahead and check that out, guys. So that's it for today. We'll see you back on Monday. Next Wednesday at noon, Whitney Webb will be on the show.
Don't miss it.
We're going to talk about her book, of course, but we're also going to talk heavily on the Iran-Contra affair and Epstein's leechy little connections to that situation. So for Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella.
Oz on the 1s and 2s, War Media, Beauty and the Boomer. Go check them out Saturday, right, Oz? And then on Monday, correct? Go check them out. There's our brothers and sisters over here at Roar Media. We are done for today.
Okay. Moscow Pizza beats Chicago. Combo out.
Jesus Christ.
Hello, Kit.
Bye.